This is the plaintiff, Emily. She says after traveling for 35 hours from the Philippines, she hired the defendant to drive her home from the airport, and when she got there, one of her bags was missing. As it turns out, the inept guy forgot to latch the trunk of the car, and one of her bags fell out onto the side of the highway somewhere. They retraced their steps, called the cops, but nothing. Now, she wants to be reimbursed for missing things and is suing the uncaring defendant for the $775.20. She's out. This is the defendant, Stephen Talley. He says the plaintiff is very sneaky and not to be trusted. He thinks she brought all her suitcases into her house and then came out and said one was missing. They retraced their steps twice and found nothing. The cops called him, asked him some questions, and that was that. He doesn't feel responsible because there's no evidence one of her bags is even missing, so that should be it. He's accused of being a loser.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff says the cabbie lost her luggage on the way back from the airport. She thinks it fell out of the trunk, but the defendant says she's pulling a scam. It's the case of where's my junk in the trunk?
Okay, you've asked to be referred to as Emily. Emily, you are suing the company that provided a taxi ride for you, represented here by Mr. Stephen Talley. You are a dispatcher and a driver for the company?
Yes.
All right. For $775.20 in lost property, which you say happened as a result of their negligence. Tell me what happened.
Sure. Late in the evening on March 28th, I was returning home from the Philippines, where I was visiting my mother, who, after retirement, became a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer. So I took a shuttle from JFK to a hotel that's less than 2 miles from my house. And when I got to the hotel, it's like 11:40 at night. I had 3 suitcases. I was a woman alone. So I asked for a cab from the hotel, and it was who they recommended. And so I asked them to call, who they would recommend.
Where are you going in that cab? You're going from?
Less than 2 miles to my apartment.
All right. You went on a trip to the Philippines to visit your mom, right? Mm-hmm. And what is it that your mom is doing in the Philippines?
She is a volunteer with the U.S. Peace Corps.
That's so cool. And she did that after she retired?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she retire from?
She's a speech and language pathologist. So
God
she
bless her. Is that what she's doing over there?
Yes, ma'am.
That's great. All right. So you come back to the airport in New York?
Yep, JFK.
And then to JFK, and then you take a shuttle to a hotel near your house?
Yep, less than 2 miles from my house.
Okay. And then you were taking a cab from that hotel, because now you've made it 90% of the way to your house.
Yeah, this is after 35 hours of travel.
Yeah. So you're exhausted. It's 11 at night. He shows up. What happens?
He shows up. I have 3 bags, in addition to a backpack on my back. 2 of the bags were my mother's. One of them was my own suitcase. So he puts them in the back, and we have a nice conversation in the short drive home.
Did the trunk close or no?
He put them in the back.
Did you see whether the trunk closed or no?
I did not see whether the trunk closed.
Did he comment that the trunk didn't close?
He did comment later. When we got to my house, he said, "Didn't you have 3 suitcases?" And I said, "Yes." And I came, and then the 2 suitcases were there. I really thought it was quite unbelievable. And he even made the comment, "This never happens." I asked, did he close the trunk? He says, "This never happens. This has never happened in 25 years of driving."
Did he say whether or not he had closed the trunk?
I believe he said that the trunk was not closed, because he specifically said this never happens, and usually it keeps it in there. He pushed it down. Yeah, now that I think about it, he mentioned that he pushed it down, and that is usually enough. But there was some discourse about him not latching the trunk, because later in the evening I said, "Please shut the trunk in the future." And that wasn't a debated topic at that point.
So what did you do when you realized that a bag was missing? What did you do?
I was exhausted. I thought it was pretty absurd that in this 2 miles after traveling from the slums of
You didn't hear
Mozilla,
anything? You didn't hear a thump or anything?
No, and we actually even discussed that. Actually, we discussed that we were surprised that we didn't hear it.
Did you see him put all 3 pieces of luggage in the trunk?
Yeah, and I did see him do that.
You did see him put all 3 in?
I did.
All right, so you get there, he says that, and then what is the first thing you two do?
I put my other 2 suitcases in the house and got in the car with him immediately.
To do what? To retrace
go back
your
and
steps?
retrace our steps. I mean,
All
I
right,
basically
so
said...
did you two retrace his steps?
We traced our steps together.
And did you find anything?
We did not.
Did you find any mysterious-looking people around the area? Was it a really populated area that you drove?
No, I mean, it wasn't a freeway. It was a, what we call like an access road that runs parallel to a freeway.
Is it populated?
And
Are people walking around?
It's one way.
Are people walking around there? Is it desolate?
Absolutely not. There's no sidewalks or anything.
So it's kind of desolate? Mm-hmm. What the heck? What happened to the bag?
Exactly. So.
No, exactly. Now, really, what happened to the bag? Does anybody know? Nobody knows?
And Mr. Talley did really think, I bet it fell out right away at the hotel.
Right. So
he
did you check with the hotel?
Absolutely.
And they said no?
No.
Okay.
And we even asked, has there been anyone in or out? And the guy at the counter certainly knew me because I'd been sitting there for 15 minutes and said.
Okay, Mr. Talley, why don't you tell me what happened? What do you think happened to it?
Okay, on the date, I did pick up Emily, and she did have 3 suitcases. We proceeded to her house. We got to her house, and I don't know if she paid me then or afterwards, but she immediately went up to her apartment. And then I got out of the car, and I unloaded the car, and I noticed there were only 2 suitcases, and she came back. Now, my question is, why did she go up to her apartment?
Yeah, but why? Did you do that?
Yeah, I could probably answer that question. There were going to be 3 suitcases. They were all pull-ons. I couldn't pull all 3 by myself, and I didn't want a strange man coming up to my door that I was entering my apartment alone at night.
So what did you do?
So I put my backpack that was on me in the house, and then I came back out to get the bag.
Okay, so that's the answer.
Without
Now go
having him
on,
come
because if
up.
you thought that what do you think she did? Took the bag in question, hid it in the house, and is framing you for the bag rather than just getting her cab ride and moving on with her life?
So do you think after a 35-hour trip, this woman is going to lie and create a scam over 1 suitcase?
No, not at all. I have no idea. It just sounds weird.
It does sound weird. Do you think that somebody that would be in their head after a 35-hour trip?
No.
So you think that the suitcase was really lost?
Yes.
Was the suitcase lost, or is she framing the cabbie?
I think it's lost. I think she probably left it at the airport, didn't realize it.
No. Then she's responsible. Do you think the cabbie left it?
Oh, no, absolutely not. But
Okay. Going inside the courtroom.
You lost the bag because you didn't close the trunk. You are insinuating that she's a thief who has framed you in this lawsuit because there's this very suspicious circumstance where she walked inside the house. You are saying to me, maybe she brought the bag inside the house. Let's go with that a moment. That would mean that not only is she a perjurer and a liar, but I would have to believe that the lady, after a 40-something hour travel schedule, wants to sit around with you, retracing her steps, calling the police, and doing all that in the middle of the night. Is that what you want me to believe? Because you even cannot believe it.
I just need to say that with her future emails, that's what led me to that suspicion.
Okay, now tell me what about her future emails made you think that?
Okay, the first email that I received has a list of the items, each individual item listed with a link that you could link on, and it shows where she bought it from. I found that to be a little strange.
Why?
Well, how many people would know like exactly what items you had and what store you bought them at and remember if they were more than 6 months old? And in one of the
What else you got?
emails, there were threats.
Tell me about the threats.
If we don't take this to small claims court, I will seek non-sale full market value and include a $600 pair of prescription eyeglasses that were lost in the suitcase but not included in the original list.
What's that about?
You know, I made the list immediately. I should mention at 2 in the morning. So after I ended with Mr. Talley, I filed a police report.
You wrote the list of what was in the items of someone else's bag. How did you know what was in the bag? Did you speak to your mother that night in the middle of the night or no?
Yes, that day.
Okay. So in this list here that you filed in your inventory of this lawsuit, did you add that $300 pair of glasses?
I only added $100 to that.
Okay, but why 100 and not 300 if they cost 300?
Honestly, when I made the list initially, I was not trying to be greedy.
Okay, give me receipts for anything that you have. Okay, Mr. Talley, tell me, what did you offer her?
I didn't offer a dollar amount.
Okay. What did he offer you?
He didn't offer me anything.
Okay. Did he ever try to say to you, let's try to negotiate, I don't want to pay the full $700?
He never responded to the email why I explained. He asked for receipts, and if you look on the, regarding one of your earlier questions, if you look on the police report, you'll see two different, that I did let the police officer know that I wasn't even sure what was in the bag at this point.
No, I got it. I got it. You could stop.
And
$775. You know what? You know when I get suspicious? When someone asks for $5,000 and they start telling me about the jewelry they had in the bag. None of that's happening. It's $775.20. It's an incredibly reasonable amount. Pay the lady. Verdict for the plaintiff.
Well, the defendant's out here on the losing end of this decision. You really think she would have sued for $775 if she was making this whole thing up?
Well, like, there was a couple circumstances in the case that drew me to that conclusion. So that's why we have courts to find out what the real truth
All right,
is.
so now you know what the real truth is. You lost it.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, and so that's your fault. So how are you going to prevent that from happening ever again?
Oh, make sure that trunk is closed from now on.
All right, okay. All right.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Do that. All right, come on in here. And so, satisfied?
Yeah, I'm satisfied. Things are things, they can be replaced. My mother did lose some items of irreplaceable value from her work in the Philippines, so I'm sad for that. What's more important to me is the way that people treat each other in a civil society, and I believe that, mistakes happen, and so Mr. Talley deserves to be treated with respect. But a taxi company that is a reputable company is responsible for the actions of their workers, and so that's what I felt.
Into the Peace Corps also?
No, I'm not.
Harvey?
So, judges are allowed to use common sense, especially in small claims court. It just makes no sense that this woman would go through the hassle of creating a scam after a trip like that. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.